ninja warriors through the ages. The powers they hold are legendary. Over the years, the ninja forged the deadliest poison. With only one antidote, they held the power of life and death.
Right.
It really was.
They call them the greatest generation for a reason, and they put this country on the map.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's for damn sure.
And so, like my grandfather, he still gets up, still shaves every morning, gets up at the same time every day, shaves every morning, makes his bed, does his chores, goes have coffee. I mean, they're like, he's on it still.
Wow. Are you still have coffee with him?
Not me. I'm not every time. Yeah, but he's in Texas. So some of the families in New York, some of the families in California, some of the families in Texas.
Right.
But they were just very. I mean, he looks at me and says, "Why you got that shit all over your face?" It's called a beard. He's like, "I don't know why you can do. Why do you do that to yourself?" I'm like, well, I don't know. It's the look right now. And he goes, "That looks terrible. You need to shave that shit off. You need to get up every morning like a man." I'm like, that doesn't make me not a man not to shave my every morning. But I understand your point.
Yep. I got you, Pops.
Yeah.
I love it, man. I love it. So I got to hang around old people sometimes, man. They just have a whole nother outlook on life, man. It's fun. Oh man, yeah. My mom is 70. God dang, dude, she's 79. She'll be 80 next year, and she has a lot of questions for me. Why you do that? Well, what's that for?
Yeah.
It's just seeing her brain work, man. It's interesting because she grew up. So she was born in 41. So she came through a lot of stuff. As a black woman, and it was just different. But my parents were. They were that group of people who just maneuvered themselves in a way that they didn't get caught up in that bullshit.
Right.
My dad was the first in my family to get a master's degree. My mom had 2 associate's degrees before she went into the special needs area of public schools. They had their shit together. They had their house paid off, and they had their house paid off before I went to college.
Well, that's great.
But it's
and I think they were both together to help you point you in the right direction.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They were always there.
That's important. I know some people think that it's a conservative value to have the family unit together. I think my opinion is that family unit is important. I remember seeing a video of Denzel Washington talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
He said, his 2 best friends, one of them did 25 to life. The other one was like 15, 18 years, something like that. He said the difference was, and he said, I hung with them. I was headed down that path. The difference was they didn't have their fathers, and I had both of my parents, and my parents put me off that track and put me on the right track,
Yep.
and I didn't end up in jail.
Yep.
And some people are like, well, why did that happen? Like, well, those guys didn't, their parents didn't have their parents. So I think, it starts a trend.
It does. It does.
I think that's very huge. And also your parents, any person I've ever met who had an educator as a parent, especially like a grade school educator,
mm-hmm.
they were good at school. Like my friends in school whose parents were teachers, they did well in school.
Yep. And that laid the groundwork for their kids, and
Exactly.
Of course, their future and their careers. I was one of those kids. No, go ahead, bro.
No, I was saying generationally, education. There was a time when education was very, 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 very. Not that it's not now,
mm-hmm.
but I don't know. Your grandmother, if you got a high school degree in those days, you could have a 30-year career and have a good job and get a pension and the whole thing.
Yes, sir.
Then it became where you needed a college degree.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe our parents,
mm-hmm.
and then it became you might need a graduate degree to put yourself one step ahead of the pack, like whether doctor, lawyer, accountant, architect, professional engineer,
Yep.
Or if you're going to be a professor in college, you need to get a PhD or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's kind of come back to the 2 generations ago, and we talked about this in the past, where getting that college education is not necessarily going to put you a step ahead. You need to have a skill.
Yes.
Unless you're going to be in one of those specialized areas, you probably need to have a skill to get that career.
That's right. That's right.
You can be whether it's plumber or HVAC. You can be electrical. There's a lot of tech jobs.
A lot.
But you need to have a skill.
Absolutely.
It doesn't necessarily require going to college, a traditional 4-year degree.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It's coming full tilt in terms of like the workforce. That's right. Fun. That's kind of funny.
And it might also tie into what we've talked about a couple of times. This might be one of those inflection points. COVID, that the economy is. I wouldn't say it's a disaster. We're not talking about depression. Yeah. We're talking highest unemployment in a while.
Yes.
We're talking significant downturn in GDP. We're way behind last year over year. That this is one of those turning points.
Yep.
And a lot of big businesses that we'll be talking about, there'll be brand names 20 or 30 years from now. They're going to start now. We don't know what they are yet, but there's somebody out there that's going to become the next Coca-Cola or IBM or United Airlines or Kleenex or whatever it is. Yep. That's brutal. We just don't know who and where it's coming from.
Yep. That's why I have like high hopes for the kids that are graduating right now in college too. They just finished up their 4-year, in January or maybe just this past July. It's going to come out, dude. You're right, man. It always does. I mean, nobody saw Steve Jobs coming. It just blew up. The same thing for Apple, Microsoft, cellular phones. I mean, it's
right.
Who knows, man? Who knows?
Well, Bill Gates and Paul Allen, they dropped out of college. The Facebook guy. I don't know. Maybe not all of them, but at least I think a couple of those guys dropped out of Harvard also.
Yeah, they all didn't finish.
Yeah. So you don't have to finish if you have a great idea. Though I mean, I'm sure Bill Gates went back and finished probably at some point. He probably has several honorary degrees.
Yeah.
Because if you have $100 billion, people will hand you things. But you don't have to have that.
No.
Unless you're going for a career that requires a specialized license that requires the degree. Accounting, architecture, medicine, law, engineering, accounting.
Yeah. If you got to take some type of major test, then you better get your education right. But skill set, you can't beat skill, man. Skill and drive, but that's just two very, very powerful things. Skill and drive, man. What got you going into law anyway, bro?
There were a few things. I've always been entrepreneurial, and people don't think of lawyers this way, but lawyers are salesmen.
Yes.
That's not the only thing. That's not the only thing they do, of course. But they have to be able to. You have to have skill. You have to develop a skill. But at the same time, you have to be able to sell that skill to other people. And when you get the opportunity, you have to do a good job. So whether you're selling wellheads or voiceover or whatever it is, you have to do well. When someone gives you the shot, you have to do a good job.
Nail it, bro.
Keep it,
yes,
and then do more business for that company, and have them tell other people about you, and that's so it grows. So it's a salesman. But at the same time, however, I saw it as an opportunity to help people.
Gotcha.
So I have a friend that he needed some help. He has another friend of his. They have a small strip mall, and with this downturn, they basically lost all their tenants.
Ah, dude.
It wasn't full to begin with, and they lost most of so it's empty, and they're starting over. Like we can you help? And I said, well, what do you need? I said, well, I can help you with leases and those kind of things. So, I have been, and they said, well, we'll pay you. We can only pay you this, that, and the other. I was like, listen, that's fine.
Yeah, man.
And I had a client that said, I need to sell this company, or I need to buy, but I can't pay you what I would have been able to pay you 8 years ago or 10 years ago. Like, well, what do you have? What do you have that you can spare for legal? And that's whatever that is what I'll do it for.
You're a good man, Tony.
Because I worked at big law firms for a long time. Now I work on my own, and so although there was a little bit of a slowdown for me during the quarantine. It took 4 weeks to set in, and it lasted about 30 days. But since we've come out of it, and Texas has opened up, and oil and gas is doing a little better. It's stabilized. The price of oil stabilized, and I've gotten busier. Whether it's been opportunistic people that are looking for value acquisitions, or people are going to grow by acquisition because it's difficult to grow organically right now, or whatever the case may be. There's a lot of activity, and so I've been pretty busy, and I don't need to be in an office. I just sit at my desk.
Yeah, man.
So I'm good, but I get the opportunity to help people. I used to do more what they call tax controversies, which is cases in which I would represent taxpayers before the IRS.
Oh, okay.
If they got audit assessment or there was collections or whatever. My friends used to say that I was doing God's work.
They didn't know you're not religious.
No, but so I was the prophet, I guess, or whatever.
There we go.
I did the best that I could to help people pay as little as possible in taxes.
You were the shepherd.
Yes.
Right on.
But then M&A, I did start. It's difficult to have an entire practice built around tax. It can be done, but I started using it more for structuring and advancing transactions, mergers and acquisitions.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I use it mostly these days. But it's largely to help people. In this case, now more it's small business owners, help them their whole life cycle, starting the business, getting it going, building the business, whether it's borrowing money, entering into contracts, and at some point selling the business.
Right.
Because exiting is where you cash in and you can retire.
Yeah, man. Build and sell. Build and sell.
So another thing I can do now on my own, as opposed to being at a firm, is I can be on a board of directors for a company, whereas most law firms won't let you do that. I can exchange services for shares in a startup.
Wow.
So where, somewhere down the road, $25,000 or $50,000 worth of legal services that I did in exchange for shares might be worth 100 times that.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. The benefits of being an entrepreneur.
Exactly.
Yeah, man. Oh, I love it. Yeah, we're going to become good friends, Tony. I got big ideas.
Even though we haven't met in person, I think we already are.
Good point. I owe you a beer already, dude.
Yeah, we'll have a beer and I'll buy a whiskey chaser.
Single malt?
Absolutely. We can do that.
My man.
Sometimes I'll do a scotch. Sometimes just nice, like a nice bourbon or whiskey.
Right on. Right on. Yeah.
Hopefully we'll be able to go to football games and do that. I see the jerseys you got in the background, not just watch it on TV.
Well, yeah. We just recorded a Panthers podcast last night. I mean, it's just, gosh, man, I just need some football in my life, bro. I need some football in my life.
Right. Well, you live in ACC country, so between football and basketball, you need some. There's a lot going on, yeah. And I went to Texas A&M, as we talked about before. They're in the SEC.
Yeah.
Talk about football life.
Wow.
That's it.
How many small businesses in those areas, like Gainesville, Florida, and in Tallahassee? Well, that's ACC country, but yeah, A&M and UT and God, man. Well, UT's not SEC, are they?
It's Big 12.
Big 12.
But College Station, Texas, is an example. I think there's 60,000 students. If in full normal circumstances, full term, 60,000. I think the town of College Station, it's like sister cities, College Station and Bryan. Mm-hmm. I think both combined, not including the students, is maybe 100,000. It's 50,000 in each, roughly. Jeez. So you're talking about 150,000, and you get to take a football game weekend. Whew. And now you roll. That stadium holds 105,000 people. So if every student went to the game, which they don't, but roughly half the stadium is students, you still have another 50,000 people that are coming in for the football game, and then another 20 or 30,000 that drive their buses and their RVs and everything. They don't go to the game; they just sit in the parking lot and tailgate. And you have other people coming in. So there's probably 250,000 people in College Station, Bryan College Station, on a football game weekend.
How many home games did they get? It was like 6 home games, 7.
Yeah.
That's 7 opportunities. That's 7 opportunities for 250,000 people to show up and spend their money.
Yep. Exactly. And SEC's and ACC, I think, is doing the same thing. They're only going to have They're only going to have a conference schedule, so they cut out the non-conference games. So they've already cut down to 10 games.
Yeah.
And so that's probably only 5 home games. So that's two weekends where a lot of money is not going to be put in the economy, and it trickles down because you're talking about the hotels and bartenders and servers and everything. The bellmen that get tipped by the alumni who, are happy to be in town for a football game, and they've been drinking too. So take my bags up. Here's 10. Here's 20. Like, you only have one bag, so it's like, screw it. Just have a beer on me.
Go Aggies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, gosh almighty. Yeah, it's going to be really dangerous if there's a massive shutdown like there was back in, April, May?
Mm-hmm. April. Month of April. In Texas, anyway, the month of April. I think Governor Abbott has committed not to shut down the state again.
Okay.
He told the county judges, put your mask orders out there, put your gathering orders out there, enforce them however you need to. We are not shutting down again. So it's going to take basically President Trump is going to have to tell him to shut it down for him to not to shut it down. He's going to keep going because it's such the oil and gas capital of the world is in Texas, and we have the richest oil field in the country in Texas, and oil prices have stabilized since Texas has been open. And so those wild fluctuations in prices occurred while we were closed.
Yeah. Wow, bro. Oh man, this is it's gonna be interesting. Yeah. Wow. I'm so glad I got you on here, man. You're an informed individual when it comes to some serious issues that's going on right now, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I appreciate it, man.
Likewise. That's one of the reasons I started, because I kind of stumbled into TikTok because I saw people posting things on Instagram. And what is this? And so I looked at it, I was like, this is interesting. And 6 months ago, whenever I first downloaded it, all I got on my For You page were these teenage girls doing these dances. Like, this is ridiculous. I don't want to watch that. I feel like some kind of pervert.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like,
you're saying right.
Just scroll, dude. Scroll.
The algorithm, I finally started liking the few that were like normal, including you. And all of a sudden, more normal people started showing up in my For You page. I was like, okay, this isn't that bad because I feel like, I know pedophilia. I probably shouldn't call myself a pedophile, but these days, but I didn't feel it wasn't right looking at these young people.
Man,
doing their thing. Throwing it back. Like, you're 13. Get off my page.
Get over here. Why are you shaking your ass? No.
No.
Jeez, these people. Yeah. Let's come back to what we said earlier, man. That me. Look at me.
Right.
My skill is videoing myself and dancing in front of a mirror. No, honey, that's not a skill, sweetheart. I'm sorry.
Right.
They've been
it's a mother's nightmare, perhaps, but it's not a skill.
Yeah, whatever you do, don't show your grandpa that shit, bro.
Right.
God almighty.
Yeah, these days don't have girls, I guess. I don't know. You can't control that, but.
Man, what can you do, man? Man, influence is influence, unfortunately.
Right.
Jesus
right.
Christ.
Yeah, that's true. So, going back to the economy and everything, the inflection point. If it's going to take a while to climb out of this. And that's why maybe getting to the second topic that it maybe just popped back in my head is, what do we do to take care of people? We're setting reparations aside,
sure, and
that's the UBI, right? Or is that even feasible? Or do we want that? And how do we address that situation?
Right. It seemed like Yang got a lot of, before he got slapped in the face with a lot of propaganda, which was warranted. Some of that stuff was like, well, yeah, that makes sense. Before, he was getting a lot of good feedback from just basic people about that, like a tech tax. I think that's what he was talking about,
right?
Tax and technology, and have that redistributed throughout the country and from on a tax format or something like that.
Right.
I think it's a decent idea. I'm just not sure. What was Yang's number? Was it 1,000, 1,200, 2,000?
Yeah, I think it was. was either 1,200. I think 1,200's on our head because of the stimulus checks.
Yeah. I think
I didn't get one, but maybe 2,000. But still, that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money, bro.
I think the numbers were under that plan. The $2,000 was $2.14 trillion a year, just for that. And what does that buy you, really?
What does? I mean, are they going to just pump it right back into the economy, or are they going to save it? I mean, what?
Who knows? But I guess there would have to be some sort of taxation to cover it. They said if we wound down the welfare system to a certain extent, that would save $1 trillion. Okay, great. So now we're still $1.1 trillion in the hole,
right?
Which, if there's 175 million working class people, that's, several $1,000s a year each in tax. So you're paying more in tax than you're getting back.
Bingo.
So that would be that's going to be a tough to provide everybody a sustainable amount for a sustainable lifestyle is almost impossible. And maybe that number I was talking about was not for 2,000. I think it was for 12,000. 12,000 to put everybody at poverty level. Which is $11,745.
I believe so. Yeah.
To get everybody at 12,000, I think it was going to cost $2 trillion a year.
Those people will still be in poverty.
Right. So it would need to be, and it would be a tough spreadsheet to model out. But okay, if they had, let's just say you increase it to 36,000, triple that. So now we're talking about $6 trillion to pay for it. Yeah. But now people have money; they can put it back into the economy and so forth. But there's all kinds of things that could happen because of that. The pros are it would give people more options to find a better job. You could go to college. You wouldn't be forced to go into the workforce. You'd have money to start a family. Some more resources. But then the downside potentially, or some of the downsides would be maybe there would be a disincentive to be in the workforce or work as much or as hard. And so maybe the workforce would be smaller. Yep. But to pay for all that, if we're paying more in tax, people have to they have to recoup that income somehow.
Exactly.
So cost would go up. There might be inflation. Yep. So, and we'd have increased, in one way or another, we'd have increased taxes. So it'd be difficult as it's been presented by whether it's presidential candidates or legislators in the past. I'm not sure there's an easy way to do it. But I'm just thinking back to this is something my grandfather said. He believes in workfare.
Okay.
Well, let's do like a New Deal kind of situation.
Okay.
You give everybody a fair wage, but you can't sit at home on your butt.
No, you got to work. Right.
We have miles and miles, thousands of miles of interstate highways. We have bridges and dams. I don't know if this summer there was a two-tiered dam in Michigan that washed out a town of 10,000 people. That was lost in the mix underneath all the COVID.
Are you
and
serious?
Yeah,
I had no clue about that.
Yeah, it was up in Michigan, and I wouldn't have probably known about it unless a friend of mine who's from Michigan, his mother's house got washed away. Yes, and they knew the dam was breaking apart, so they had time to gather the most important belongings and get out to bug out. Then the first dam collapsed, and there was too much water for the second dam to hold, and the whole thing. And people that were in like the 1,000-year floodplain or didn't have flood insurance because there was they would take some kind of catastrophic event, which had never happened.
Yeah.
Their houses were under 5 feet of water.
And they would never recoup that because they didn't have their insurance. Son of a bitch.
But it's not flood insurance.
Right.
So it's an accident. So I think the homeowners insurance companies were being, I'm sure there were some that were not, but most of them were being fairly reasonable.
Good.
Like your house was wiped out, they were issuing checks pretty quickly, but then still you don't have a house. My friend is one of 6, and his mother is spending time with each of the kids.
Get on rotation.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
But unfortunately, she has 6 kids, so she can, 2 weeks at each, that's 12 weeks.
Oh, that's a good thing. Yeah.
4 rotations through the kids, and that's most of a year.
Right. Yeah. Oh man, you gotta be careful with that COVID situation and doing that though.
Right.
Yes.
Well, at least they're all family.
Good, yeah, right. You don't need for mask.
But that happened, and it flew under the radar because there were so many other things that were grabbing the headlines.
Yeah, that really makes me worried, Tony. What the hell else have I missed? What have we missed?
Yeah.
Jeez. This is why I follow small town, like, that's another reason I like Twitter. All these little police departments and fire departments, things of that nature, they all have their own thing on Twitter. So you can go to the smallest towns in some cases and keep up with the news that's going on. That's how I keep tabs on my mom's area.
Right.
Wow, what the heck have I missed, bro? That's huge. 10,000, a town of 10,000. Christ. That's crazy, dude.
And there's going to be some lawsuits because it's America.
Oh, yeah.
But apparently it's going to be those lawsuits are going to be a shit show.
Yeah,
because apparently the land was privately owned and the upper dam was as well. And he had been warned by some governing bodies that he needed to make repairs and do some upgrades to keep it from collapsing, which he didn't do. So you're thinking, okay, that's gross negligence. He knew about it and ignored the problem. However, the county, state, whatever the local, they never enforced it. So did they waive it? And in addition to that, what he did was he lowered the water.
Huh.
So to take the pressure off the dam, okay, fine. But then all these people that had water on properties on the lakes, they wanted lakefront property. They didn't want mudfront property. They wanted lakefront property. So they got this coalition together to put pressure on him to put the water back in the lake, the dammed up river, and so they could have their lakefront property back. So how responsible are those people who put enough pressure on him to put the water back in there? So who's really responsible for it?
Wow.
So in law, in terms of torts, they call that an intervening or superseding cause. Like, what would to have a tort, you have to have cause in fact and proximate cause, which is, but for him not maintaining the dam, would the dam have broke? Okay. No, it wouldn't have.
No.
And then was the dam breaking the proximate cause of the town being washed out? Yes. But if there's an intervening or superseding cause, something that comes in the middle, like, okay, so he lowered the water to avoid all that, and these other people put pressure on to put the water back in, do they minimize his liability? Who's really responsible?
Interesting. That's a very interesting point. What was it a legal act put against him by that coalition to make him do that?
I haven't researched all of that.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think they may have. What I may recall is maybe they had purchased some of the water rights, and they use their water. They exercise their water rights to put water back into or open up one of the tributaries to put water into the reservoir type area that made up the lakefront properties.
Wow,
but that's gonna be an interesting case.
It is.
But that happened.
Wow.
In the last few months.
Jeez,
maybe that might have been actually as recently as mid-July. Yeah. And the only reason I know is that I think the last time we talked, I was in Michigan.
Yeah, on a fishing trip.
And that's when I found out about it. I was like, what? When did this happen? A dam broke. People got washed away. Wait.
That's
what happened to COVID? Like, they're not worried about COVID in Michigan right now. I'm like, I bet not.
Yeah, right?
They're worried about getting their stuff out of the river. Yeah, jeez, exactly. Where's my house?
Wow. Trump hadn't said anything about it, had tweeted about it, nothing.
Nothing.
Jeez Louise, people. It must be an election year. Oh, well. Yeah, that UBI situation, man, I think that's gonna be really difficult to get through. And when you mentioned that, I was thinking like, well, you know what? If they have a UBI, they can completely get rid of welfare, completely, because you have no need for it now.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. But welfare had a tier system, like you had to have. Well, it depends on the state too, doesn't it? It might be a state mandated thing, but it seems welfare would be a situation where kids will come into play in that. Right. What would your UBI be if you had 2, 3 children?
Right.
Things of that nature. I mean,
Right.
would you still get a portion of it if you had a job, or would you get none of it, or would you?
A lot of that would have to be worked out, because a pure UBI system is there's periodic payments in cash to adult working age individuals on a universal basis. So it doesn't matter if you're working or not working, and it's and unconditional. So,
Wow.
but that, like any theory, that it works. It would be great in theory, but and there may be a country that's more homogenized, like Norway, where everybody looks and acts. No knock against Norway. I've been up there for business. Love Norway.
Yeah.
Beautiful country.
Yeah, I heard.
High tax rate, 95% white people.
Right.
They're all blonde hair, blue, not all of them, but there's, interestingly, quick aside, when I was going to the airport, I don't know if it was in Oslo or Stavanger, which is their Houston. The Stavanger is the oil and gas capital of Norway. I was going to the airport, and in America, like the cover of Vogue or Cosmopolitan, there'll be a tall, thin, blonde hair or auburn hair, blue eye, green eye. Well, they're all like that up there. So you know who was on the cover of Cosmo? A dark haired girl with dark eyes, because that's exotic and different. And I was like, who are all these? Like, look, who are all these girls that look like my Italian mother? They're like, they're the exotic, different look in Norway, because they're all the men are like 5'10" to 6'2" or taller.
Wow.
They're thin. They have light skin. They have sandy blonde hair or lighter, and they have green eyes and blue eyes, and they're fair skinned. They're close to the Arctic Circle.
Yeah.
I mean,
Nordic.
They don't get as much sun as the rest of us. So, so in a country like that, where there's a very similar, and you grow up that way, where everybody's entitled to work and a pension and all that kind of stuff, that would be much easier. And they have the largest sovereign wealth fund in the world, I believe. Last time I checked, they have something along the lines of $50 million in the bank for every citizen of that country. Now, having said that, there's only 6 million people in Norway.
Right.
In Harris County, which is where Houston is, has 6 million people. So, but their sovereign wealth fund is like almost $1 trillion.
Jeez.
It's mostly oil and gas money. Because they're all, anyway. So, but you can do it in a place like that. But America has 330 million people. I bet when the new census comes in, it's going to be 350 million people, or who knows, between 330 and 350.
Yeah.
And one of the great things of this country is we're not all the same.
Right.
But in terms of UBI and standard of living and all that kind of stuff, we're not all the same.
Right.
You have one parent, one mother, one father, 2 kids, or 3 kids, or 1 kid, or no kids, and this is how much money you get.
Right.
Because their cost of living is probably much more standardized in Norway.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're in New York, if you live in Manhattan, or you live in Pacific Heights of San Francisco, or you live in the Gold Coast of Chicago, or you live in River Oaks of Houston, it costs a lot more than if you lived in the suburbs or in the country. And some states have state income tax. Some states don't, like Texas, or Florida.
Yeah.
And so
Oregon, I think, or is it Oregon?
Yeah. And so how would we adjust for all of that? So it would probably have to be. So I think a plan can be put together, and we can. And similarly, we haven't touched on healthcare. We may not have time for it right now. But I did a paper in college about that. But anyway, the reason I'm saying that is that I broke it into 3 pieces. So similarly, we could take UBI, and it wouldn't be a UBI because I don't think we could just write a person everybody a check every month for their standard of living. So it would have to be some combination of. So we'd have to wind down welfare and build up this workfare, and of course we'd have to have some means for childcare, because you can't put everybody out in the workforce if there's nobody there to take care of the kids. Right. But some of those workforce people would be the ones taking care of the kids, so we could get everybody doing something. And then I think it'd be a combination of, in exchange for, instead of paying all the people to rebuild the roads and the bridges and the buildings or whatever, they would be getting paid out of this this UBI, right? So that would reduce the infrastructure costs of the state, local, and federal government. And then we'd also have to have some sort of like earned income credit, I think also, which is like a refund. You get your tax that you paid in back, plus maybe a little more. I think Milton Friedman described it as a negative income tax. So there'd have to be some multi-tiered approach so that you would be working, so there wouldn't be a disincentive to work and be part of the workforce. So we can keep our productivity up as a country.
I like that.
Coupled with if you weren't making much more than, I think it would have to probably also have to phase out. So if the UBI was 36 and you're making 50, then, it would phase out and you would get some tax incentives so that your take-home pay net would be the same. But the government would have to pay less, so it would have to come less out of the coffers. And maybe the government could build up some surplus and we wouldn't have, as much debt spending.
There it is.
It'd be a complicated model, but I think you could put it together. But if a candidate tried to enunciate a proposal, they would sound like Joe Biden.
They just shot down immediately.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to make sense.
No.
You wouldn't be able to articulate that in a sentence or two where people could understand.
There's no way.
It's too complicated.
Far too complicated.
Is it possible? Yes. And going back to the topic we touched on last time, could we do a flat sales tax, like a national sales tax and UBI? That would be another level of complication in that mix. We'd probably have to stay with an income tax and have the workfare and different tiers of income tax and like this earned income credit or the negative income tax to kind of make up the difference so that everybody net took home, $36,000 a year or whatever the target number was. So you have a basic standard of living. So, and it wouldn't be based on the number of kids you have. So that which kind of like some people would argue that part of the welfare system incentivizes people to have more children because you get more incentive, you get more welfare benefits.
Yep.
So if it's not based on the number of people in the household and it's only based on the number of people in the workforce, then it would incentivize people to be in the workforce and make sure they made that minimum standard of living by a combination of working and receiving. And I don't think we'd have as many large families either.
Great point. I really love that workfare idea that your grandpa put out, man. I love that. Incentivize people to work. Don't incentivize people to have children.
Right.
Completely different thing. Not to mention you're wearing on resources with the more kids you have because not everybody's working out in the fields anymore. So we got to be careful about that too.
That's
man,
right.
Tony, I appreciate you, man. This was an awesome conversation.
Yeah,
awesome conversation. Do you have any parting shots or anything?
Nothing particular. We touched on a lot of things. It's a great conversation as usual. That's why I really, I appreciate this and this forum and this format. Like I said last time, I'm glad to do it again. We can hit on some other topics.
I think healthcare would be coming up next time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe. Well, one of my thesis in political science as a senior was on the healthcare system. So it's been a minute, but there might be a lot of dust on it, but I can blow the dust off it and see. But I had a 3-tiered approach to that too. So anyway.
Good deal, man.
So I mean, just summarize since you asked, reparations, there's probably some wrong that needs to be righted. It'd be a complicated way to figure out who and how much and the process. It'd probably have to be some sort of incentives or grants for home business opportunities, and then on the UBI, it would have to be a multi-tiered approach.
It would,
because we can't write a check. Just same thing with reparations. We just can't write a check to everybody.
No, dude, we can't.
If we wrote a $100,000 check to every adult Black American, and we wrote $30,000 or $40,000 a year check to everybody, we'd have $10-15 trillion of checks we'd be writing every year.
Year.
There's not that much tax income in the United States.
No.
We haven't even touched on healthcare or education. I mean, how do we pay for all this shit?
Military.
Yeah, there's none of this. We'd have a $30 trillion budget.
That's like the whole planet in one budget, bro.
Right.
Jeez. Yeah,
and if we did the math, I don't know how much that would be per person in the U.S. or for every adult. 30 trillion divided by 175 million. That's a lot of tax.
Fuck.
I don't even know what that is.
I don't want to know.
There's too many zeros. I can't do that in my head.
There's way too many. There's way too many. I know decimal points and.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Tony, we're gonna talk about that and probably some more things next time, bro.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I appreciate you, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to be on. Thanks for having me on the show again, and look forward to the next go round.
Yeah, bro. Enjoy your time in Texas, man. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right.
Stay cool. Talk to you later.
All right, bro.
Bye.
And my man Tony, Texas A&M Aggie, lawyer, intelligent individual. It was a great conversation, man. And I was dead serious about setting up some type of weekly, maybe a weekly, bi-weekly, depending on his schedule and mine, a little show, because I think we can help a lot of people out there with dealing with several things, a lot of things. Who knows? So thanks again, guys and gals. Listen to the Duet Ninja podcast, TDN podcast, however you want to do. You guys take care of yourselves and peace and blessings.
Ninja warriors, the powers they hold are legendary.